Where can you stay in an iconic suite where John Lennon wrote Give Peace a Chance while hosting a bed-in during his honeymoon with Yoko Ono?
Do you feel the love?
I feel the love.
Do you feel the energy?
What about a museum devoted to insects where you can immerse yourself in a room of fluttering butterflies?
If you're feeling down, then you can come hang out here and you're gonna feel much brighter.
Or a hip neighborhood for foodies where bagels and a Brooklyn vibe won't break the bank.
The food scene here is strong. It is strong.
Stay tuned for a walk through Montreal, Canada, Quebec's largest city. We're sharing a local's take on where you can explore on a budget while eating like a queen, and where lovers of music history may want to splurge on an iconic hotel. And you'll get the happiest vibes from butterflies on this episode of the Travels with Darley podcast in Montreal. I usually don't start a podcast with a hotel recommendation, but this one is pretty unique.
If you're a lover of music and history, you might want to check out Fairmont, the Queen Elizabeth Hotel here in downtown Montreal. I'm actually going to head up to the 17th floor to the John Lennon and Yoko Ono suite. It's here in 1969 that during their honeymoon, John Lennon and Yoko Ono spent a week and wrote their famous tune, Give Peace a Chance.
Welcome to the John and Yoko suite at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal.
Ooh.
Do you feel the love?
I feel the
Do you
I
feel the
love,
energy?
and I like stay in bed. I feel like that's resonating with me right now.
Philippe, the hotel's manager, has let me into the John Lennon and Yoko Ono suite, where an acoustic guitar rests on a stand beside a bed adorned with a classic white hotel bedspread. Above the bed on the windows, large stickers saying hair piece, bed piece, decal the windows, which look out onto the city. A white poster with Stay in Bed written in large block letters is framed above the guitar. Now I'm simply filming this room and not staying here. And if you continue listening to hear the price tag on this suite, you'll understand why.
In 2017, our owners decided to renovate the Queen Elizabeth Hotel. So they have designed this suite to be a museum.
How did they end up here at the Fairmont?
They wanted to go in New York first. And unfortunately, due to some past experience of John Lennon, the American authority did not let him go in. So they had to turn around. And they decided to come to Montreal at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel.
And you welcome them with open arms.
And we welcomed them with open arms. And here we are today.
The two were supposed to be doing their bed-in New York City, but a cannabis charge kept Lennon from entering the U.S. So Montreal won the couple, along with a slew of news media.
What was the vibe within the hotel when they were staying here? What happened?
Full of love. Full of love. We were really worried about the security and everything. You know, we usually don't divulge who's staying with the hotel, and it's John and Yoko Ono. So we were really worried. But you know what? It was coming from John. And slowly, he was welcoming the journalists, welcoming some local artists with him, and people were coming in. And he was just opening the door. It was great. Montrealers have something special with them with this suite.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because as I've been traveling around the city, I've seen it's very progressive and very cool. So I can see how they were like, oh, we'll just stay in Montreal. We'll just go to Montreal. There's such history here. I can imagine that a lot of people would want to stay here. How much is this going to potentially set me back?
The suite itself for one night, it's $4,000 a night. But it's a museum. Like we tested with the phone.
No.
It's a museum.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, but I'm just wondering, since we're a BFF now, can I get the friends and family discount?
Well, you know, let's say that it's our little secret here, right?
Well, this is a great suite, but also a great view. You kind of feel like you're on top of the world here, and you know, they were wanting to promote world peace, so it makes sense.
Exactly, exactly. And even today, like, you know, Montreal is Montreal. It's the nightlife city, it's the multicultural city. So I think it's great that it happened here, actually, instead of New York's great, don't get me wrong, but Montreal is very cool.
I'm gonna have to get in that bed.
I think you have to.
I kind of feel like I have, can I do that?
Of course. I think you
I
have to try this bed.
I think I have to try
I think it's part of the history. You have to jump on it.
I have to see the view over here.
And maybe sing a little bit.
Okay, you're pushing it now.
I'll sing with you. Right about that.
All right. Well, this is saying stay in bed, grow your hair,
Peace out.
peace out.
Yes, I'm laying in the bed in the same spot where John Lennon and Yoko Ono promoted peace for just a little over a week, a scene portrayed in old newsreels. You can dive into this media in another room in the suite, where archival materials are inside a wall consisting of white drawers, which look like filing cabinets, or by picking up a retro teal rotary phone, which plays old interviews with Lennon. And while I could lie in bed here all day dreaming of the Beatles, a band I truly do love, instead I'm heading out of the hotel to explore the city on foot. The best way to explore Montreal is by walking its multifaceted neighborhoods. I'm excited to explore on foot with a local guide, who's not only an expert on architecture and history, but also local food.
So here we are at Place d'Armes, loosely translated, that's Military Square.
Licensed Montreal tourist guide Françoise Bâby is taking me for a walk, starting in Old Montreal.
Today it's 350 years of history and architecture. You have all sorts of different styles around the square.
This is a building that looks a bit familiar to me, being from New York City. Any relation to the Empire State Building?
There is definitely a relation. It's called the Aldred Building. This is the little brother of the Empire State Building. It's not quite as high. It's got that same great Art Deco architecture inside and outside. It's been there since the 30s, adding an extra architectural style to the square.
I see this church has quite a line to get inside. It must be pretty popular.
So this is Notre Dame Basilica. This is the most popular wedding church in Montreal, and the most famous wedding to ever be celebrated here back in the 1990s was Céline Dion's. She's our national treasure, so we got to see her get married on live TV. So we're walking to the Pointe-à-Calière History and Archaeology Complex, which was built right on an archaeological dig, so extremely cool.
So we're going underground.
We're going to be going underground. So we have the vestiges of different buildings that used to be here. A little further down the way, we have parts of the vestiges of the first fort built by the French in the 1640s. So I think that Montreal, one of the things that I like best about is the multiculturalism, which has been here since almost the beginning. It started with French and First Natives. About 100 years later, you had the British come. There were some Scots in their regiments, then the Irish, then the Chinese, the Jews, and so on and so forth. So it's been a land of immigrants. And the fact that it's so cosmopolitan, 25% of us speak 3 languages fluently, and that's what makes it so rich today.
Well, you can certainly see the diversity as you walk around and look at the architecture, and now I'm excited to discover it through the food.
I'm taking you to Le Petit Dep, the Little Dep, which has been a convenience store since 1822. It's never been anything else before.
This convenience store in Old Montreal is the cutest I've ever seen. It not only serves soft-serve ice cream, but also fresh cookies and coffee, pastries, and other products made in Quebec. If you like to shop local or take photos for your socials, this shop should be on your list.
Whoa, this is quite the afternoon snack.
Bon appétit.
Françoise gets a giant cookie, and I get a soft-serve ice cream cone on a sugar cone. And we sit on a bench outside the shop, where fresh flowers and potted plants line the exterior. And if you can snag a bench, you're in a prime spot for people watching. Next, Françoise is taking me to the Mile End neighborhood to get a taste of Montreal's eclectic food scene.
It's been compared to Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And this street is called St-Viateur Street. And we're heading to a veritable Montreal institution, St-Viateur Bagel.
Excited to try them because I'm a bagel aficionado. I have tried all the best bagels in New York City. I live there.
New York bagels and Montreal bagels were identical until the 1960s. And that's when New York went to the dark side. So the bagels are made exactly like in New York, except we have one extra ingredient, that would be sugar. Then the dough is put on a table and sliced with a knife, no machine, rolled by hand with all that TLC. That'll make anything taste better.
Made with love.
Then they are boiled in honey water, adding more sweetness on the outside, making our bagels golden brown. And then they're baked in a wood fire oven, giving it all that great flavor and crispy outside.
We wait in line to get a bag of fresh sesame bagels right out of the oven. They're served to us uncut with a plastic container of cream cheese. Instead of a schmear like in New York City, we're going to break off pieces of the bagel and dip those pieces into the cream cheese.
This is the best way to have them.
Okay, I'm just taking a piece here.
But I do like dipping into the cream cheese like this. Bon appetit.
It's really, really good. And it's not sweet. I thought it would be sweet, but it's not sweet at all. They're very good. But my heart is in New York.
I still prefer these. My heart is in these bagels.
Our next stop is a gnocchi place that serves fresh, hot gnocchi in white to-go containers street side. And there's a line here too.
So this is Drogheria Fine. It's a hole in the wall, and they serve one thing and one thing only, gnocchi and tomato sauce.
It smells really good.
Doesn't it smell good?
Yeah.
The aromas come out the window and lures people in.
So let's get some gnocchi.
Let's get some gnocchi.
This looks great. I love the sauce. It's almost like a soup sauce.
It's very unctuous, very velvety almost.
It's really, really tasty.
So next, we're going to Kemkoba, one of the best ice cream parlors in Montreal. They've got some really great Asian flavors here.
I've never seen pandan. Is that how you say it, pandan?
Yeah, pandan. Very delicate green ice cream.
What does Kemkoba mean?
Kemkoba is Vietnamese for Aunt Number Three's ice cream. In many Asian cultures, if you have many boys or many girls in a family, they're called by their birth order. So the owners of the shop are Vincent and his Vietnamese wife, Ngoc, and she is the third daughter in a family of 3 girls. So when she became an aunt, she was called Aunt Number 3. So there you go, Aunt Number 3's ice cream. Very original.
I get a scoop of the pandan ice cream on a small waffle cone.
I wouldn't even know really how to describe it.
Hard to describe.
It's very glacé. The consistency is really good.
From beautiful food to beautiful insects, you've got that right. Montreal is home to one of the largest museums devoted to insects in North America. And you'd be surprised at what a visit to the Insectarium can do for you. Max Larrivee, director of the Montreal Insectarium, is meeting me in the gardens outside.
I was reading about your background and PhD in etymology.
Yes. Ever since I was a small kid, I knew I was going to study butterflies and insect diversity, so it was kind of natural for me to do that.
The exterior of the building looks like a large glass greenhouse.
Well, I'm looking at the design of this building, and I love the transparency. It's really unique.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few reasons. We wanted to echo the botanical garden in which we're in, right, as a greenhouse setup. And the other part was this notion of transparency. To have a museum with live insects in it, a lot of people don't realize how complex it is. And to have this transparent museum was allowing that.
So the Insectarium is supposed to make us understand why sometimes we're in awe of insects, sometimes we're afraid of insects, so that you move through and you become more empathetic towards insects.
Absolutely. So it's everything in the experience that is immersive puts the visitor into this posture where they can be more empathetic and appreciate insects around them.
Inside, you can walk among fluttering butterflies, and there's even a butterfly nursery.
I don't think it's possible to be upset when you're in here. You can only feel good when you're surrounded by beautiful insects, beautiful plants like this. And this is basically also what coexisting with nature and insects is all about, and that's what we want to teach people.
It's wonderful to see them literally like floating around in this space, because normally you see butterflies that come and go so quickly, but here you can really see them just flying and floating.
Heliconan butterflies, so the ones with the long wings there, they're perfect for that.
You have to bring in different insects and you have to cultivate an environment in here. It's like an aquarium for butterflies and insects that you're cultivating.
So like a dry aquarium is called a vivarium, and this is basically what it is. So normally in a museum you would look through the glass and peek at the insects that are inside of it. But because of the purpose of the museum, which is to change the relationship of the visitor with them, our gamble is that once you've done the underground visit, you are now ready to live side by side with insects and appreciate them for what they are.
If you're feeling down, then you can come hang out here and you're gonna feel much brighter.
Brighter, fuller, and with Beatles vibes. This trip to Montreal has been eye-opening, sharing a mix of experiences that you'll definitely only find here and are best found when you speak with local experts on location. Montreal is an easy flight from many U.S. cities, including my home area of New York City, just an hour-and-a-half direct touchdown. But you can also drive or take a train or bus here. And once you're in Montreal, you don't need to rent a car. I visited Montreal in the summer for this podcast, but Montreal is a 4-season destination and has special events year-round. Another reason to take a trip to Quebec. I'm Darley Newman, and this was my 3rd trip to Montreal and Quebec, and I'm looking forward to visiting again and taking you with me. I've been traveling for a decade and a half and cataloged great stories through my Emmy Award-winning PBS series Travels with Darley, now also streaming and for this podcast. So check it out wherever you consume media, and find me on the socials too.